Hey there, it's Olivia-Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and today I'm here to unhaul some books and get some books off of my shelves. I usually wait until I have more books than this to unhaul, but lately I've just been feeling like I'm holding on to these books. I haven't been DNFing as much, I haven't been getting rid of as many books, and even though it's a smaller quantity, I just want to get these off of my shelf. So we're doing an unhaul sooner than usual. As always, I go through my DNFs, then I go through books I didn't like, books that I found were okay but I've decided not to keep. I've got some books here that I enjoyed but I've also decided not to keep, and then I've got some duplicates. So that is the order of which we'll be going through the books. Let's get right down to the books and get these cleared off. So the first one, the first DNF, I've got 4 here to show you. This one absolutely breaks my heart because it is my Evernight special edition of The Library at Hellebore by Cassandra Khaw. I tried so hard. I read half of this book and I really should not have given it that much time. It's gorgeous. It's got this lovely sprayed edge. Look at this, look how beautiful it is. It looks so beautiful. And I did not get along with this book. It's even short, you know, it's not that long, but I just had to DNF it. And this is about this school where these kids with these supernatural powers go to. They are all terrible people, and the faculty at this school are dangerous and killing them off, and they end up in this library. And I'm telling you, it takes really a long time before they get to this library. The storytelling is so random. It felt gory for the sake of being gory. I am a gore lover. I love horror. The more gore the better, and yet it just felt so unnecessary for there to be that much gore. The writing style in this one is really weird. She jumps from like time scale back and forwards and all over the place, and you don't really get a sense of the characters. You don't really understand what is going on, what their powers are, why they're making the decisions they're making. Then there was this like romance thrown in, and I was like, these characters don't have any chemistry. How am I supposed to root for this romance? And I just felt so lost and so confused while I was reading this, and I just thought, this is not the book for me. Nothing about the book was vibing with me. Not the characterization, not the plot, not the storytelling, the writing. Like, what am I reading this book for? And so I had to put a stop to it and DNF, and I need to pass this book along. I was also really sad about this one. I DNF'd so many books, I'm very sad that I DNF'd. This is Proof of Immortal Dark by Tigest Girma. This is a young adult black vampire romantasy. I love the idea of black vampires. I love the idea of this being heavily imbued with dark academia. It's actually set at a school. I really just love the idea, again, of black vampires. I'm just so happy that exists. And young adult romantasy is kind of on the rise, and I love that young adult readers are getting introduced to this genre as well. This book, not for me. I didn't like our main character whatsoever. At the beginning of the book, not a spoiler, she commits a murder. She is so unapologetic for committing this murder. She's just like, whatever, I committed this murder, I don't feel bad about it. And I'm supposed to root for this character that has committed murder and just seems to be entirely desensitized to the fact that she's taken someone's life. Now, often in books where murders happen, let me just think about Crime and Punishment for a moment here. They might be happy they've done it, they might think the person deserved it, but they have some sort of emotion around this fact. This, like, unashamedly continuously repeating that they don't feel sorry for it was really grating on my nerves, and it made me not like this main character at all, which made me not really enjoy the book that I was reading. The world building just didn't kind of grab me from the beginning, and I just wasn't into this. And so it actually was a quick DNF for me because everything was grating, and I was like, why am I putting myself through this beginning? So I was again very sad to let this one go because I really wanted to love it. Then we have here Space Crone by Ursula K. Le Guin. This is a collection of essays and non-fiction works and commentary that Ursula K. Le Guin has written. I've read Ursula K. Le Guin's fiction before and I rather like it. I think she's a very great sci-fi writer, very intelligent. However, whoever put this collection together, the fault lies with them, because there is no rhyme and reason as to why these essays have been collected together. Nothing makes me more upset than an anthology where nobody's put any thought into how the anthology is composed. They just took non-fiction works of Ursula K. Le Guin's and put them together. There's no like sections that are thematically revolving around each other, nothing. It's just a random assortment of different lengths, of different concepts, and I don't understand who composed this way. And so I do think I would be interested in reading Ursula K. Le Guin's non-fiction works, but I don't think I'd be interested in reading them in this particular collection, which sounds very particular of me, but as someone who is going in for a reading experience, when you're reading an anthology of works, even if they're by the same person, the experience was just so bad that I couldn't see past it after a couple of short non-fiction pieces, and it was not to do with Ursula K. Le Guin's writing itself. We've got the last DNF here, and that is the Briar Book of the Dead by AJ Slatter. This is on me. I went into this, it's a kind of younger skewing historical fantasy. I'm not a historical reader at the moment. I'm bridging into it a little bit more piece by piece, and this is historical fantasy, but there's just something about historical leaning fantasy that I find so boring, and it's not to do with the book or the writer themselves. It's just that the genre it's not working for me, and so I need to stop trying with these kind of books. And this is one that I've had on my shelf for a while. I should have known. I read the first 50 to 100 pages and I just found it incredibly slow paced, and I didn't know where the story was going. Not that it wasn't going somewhere, just because I hadn't read the synopsis, and I was just like, am I interested enough after this 50 to 100 pages to see where this is going to go? And the answer was no. And then I think I read the synopsis and I still wasn't convinced, so that is a definite DNF for me. And so I think there's an audience out here and readers out there who are absolutely going to love this book. It's just not me. Then we get to a book that I didn't enjoy at all, and that is the only one of this unhauled books that I didn't enjoy. I'm very good at DNFing books that I didn't enjoy, and I haven't been reading that many books I haven't enjoyed lately. But yes, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, but specifically the Concise Classics collection. I accepted a collection of these Concise Classics and I realized I don't like what they're doing. They are taking and chopping and changing the original classics to remove any of the racism or misogyny or problematic elements, which to some degree some people might want to read them that way. Sure, go ahead. I'm not that interested in removing the problems from a classic and then reading it. I just don't want to read that classic at all. And then also, as well as doing that, it breaks the story up into these 2 pages. You can see there's not much writing on each page. This is the original text. This is them summarizing the original text that you just read. You read a paragraph of original text, paragraph of translation. Paragraph original text, paragraph translation. That's all fine and dandy for things like Shakespeare, where it's confusing. This is such a straightforward classic. It did not need translating. I was literally reading copy-paste the same thing. And so, because I was reading pretty much copy-paste the same thing, I was getting incredibly frustrated and my frustration mounted, but it was such a quick read that I decided to finish it, and I didn't like it at all. And so I will not be reading any more Concise Classics. I've already unhauled all the rest, and this one is now going as well. Sayonara, goodbye. Okay, we've got quite a big stack here of books that I read and I just found them okay. This means I rated them all 3 stars. Some of them are good 3 stars, some of them are okay 3 stars, and some of them are just like kind of forgettable. And so let's go through them. So the first 2 are my Freida McFadden thrillers that I've recently read, The Boyfriend by Freida McFadden and The Coworker by Freida McFadden. I talk about this a lot, mostly every single unhaul. I read thrillers and I unhaul them. I think once I know the plot twist, I'm not going to reread them, and therefore I do not need to hold on to them. Particularly with Freida McFadden thrillers, I read them like they are sweets. I blitz through them, I read them, and I give every single one of them 3 stars because I like them, but I do not love them. These 2 in particular, you've got young single women who are dating, and I really don't like the superficial way that Freida McFadden writes young women who are dating. I predicted elements of the plot for both of these, and then there was an element of the plot in this one I didn't predict. I didn't like the kind of autistic coded character that we see in this. I thought this had a very satisfying ending and conclusion. I actually think this also had a very satisfying ending and conclusion, and so you can see that my review is quite mixed for both of them, but I did read both of them in the space of a few days because I can absolutely blitz through Freida McFadden's writing. I think these are palette cleansers for me. They cleansed my palette and now they can go on to cleanse somebody else's. I read Loveboat Reunion by Abigail Hing. This is the sequel to Loveboat Taipei, which I absolutely loved and I gave that one 5 stars. This one, not so much. I just found it to be okay. It's a dual point of view. I liked one point of view more than the other. What I will say is that it has fantastic dyslexia and dyspraxia representation in this, and I loved everything to do with the Mid-Autumn Festival and being in Asia for the Mid-Autumn Festival itself and seeing how it's celebrated over there. But as much as it had some good storylines on complex family dynamics and relationships and women in business, specifically in the fashion industry, and it not being discredited, I did just think this book was incredibly slow paced. It took incredibly long to get to the point, and I was incredibly uninterested in Sophie's character, which is half of the book in and of itself. So in conclusion, I'm not going to keep this one. I'm not going to read the finale in the trilogy, and I'm going to pretend that the first book is a standalone. We have Demon Song by Kelsea. I read this in October. It's a Phantom of the Opera retelling set in Beijing, and it is a lot of fun and it is really enjoyable, and I really like what it did with the Chinese mythology that is woven into this book and how it paired with the Phantom of Element retelling points. It is a novella, so it's quite short, punchy, to the point, but because of it being quite short, punchy, and to the point, it means it did lend into telling over showing a bit. And while I had a good time with this, I just don't think I need to keep it on my shelves. I think it's one that lots of people enjoy, but I'm just going to pass it on to the next reader. I read in the space of like an hour or so, or even half an hour, a graphic novel called Giant by Mollie Ray. There is no words in this, it's all illustrations, and this is what led me to discover I do want some words in my graphic novels, because I was a little bit lost of what was happening, and that might be me just not visually being able to process as much as somebody else could when they pick up this book. But it was an emotional story, and I did get the main gist of what was happening, and it was quite sad and quite hopeful at points, but I just don't think it's for me to have graphic novels without words. It's not my personal preference, and so I am also passing this along to somebody else. We have a young adult novel in verse called Wild East by Hickson-Lovence. This is about a young black man who ends up being in the wrong place at the wrong time, teenager I should say, not man, and so his mum packs him up, moves him to somewhere else in the middle of the English countryside, and he's like, nothing is happening, nothing is going on. But when a poet visits the school and starts doing like poetry workshops, he realizes that poetry and rap has some similarities and overlap, and starts to fall in love with poetry itself. And I liked seeing the journey that he goes on to learn to love and appreciate poetry. There's a lot of referencing of other novels in verse in this, which I adore as someone who's a big fan of novels in verse in general. And so I had fun with this book, but I do think ultimately it's a bit slice of life, and I wanted a bit more direction, and I don't think it quite compares to some of the other brilliant novels in verse that I've read. So I do think I'm so glad this is out there, and I do think it's worth teenagers' time. It's just not one I'm going to be hoarding on my shelves, and I will share it with other people out there. Again, we have a novel in verse here, and that is An Impossible Thing to Say by Arya Shahi, and this is again a young adult novel in verse about someone who is Iranian and they are living in America, so they're actually American Iranian, and for the first time their grandparents are moving from Iran to America, and it's about what happens as he gets to know these grandparents that he hasn't had much time and familiarity with. There's a Shakespeare play on at school, and he starts to fall in love with Shakespeare and also rap as well, and so it's about him like coming of age, discovering himself, discovering how his friendship is shifting, how his thoughts on romance are shifting, but also a lot about culture being of two worlds, and his 9/11 happens over the course of this book, how he is treated differently for being someone who obviously looks like they're not from America. So that is what is all in this book. There's quite a lot going on, but I was very unhappy with the conclusions that we reached in this novel in verse, because I think it ended quite abruptly and suddenly and didn't wrap up a lot of the big themes and storylines that I had started to talk about, which is what I kind of wanted, or like the kind of guidance that I think more teenagers need. And so I wanted there to be more conclusions in this book, and I don't say that lightly as someone who likes an open ending, but this wasn't an open abstract ending. This was just like a cut off suddenly. Then I'm just going to quickly whiz through these two doubles I have. So You Weren't Meant to Be Here by Andrew Joseph White. I was sent the proof unsolicited, which I was going to keep and read, but then also came in my Illumicrate Evernight, so I don't need two copies. I've got the special edition, this one can go. And then also The Place Where They Buried Your Heart by Christina Henry. I was sent the proof, and then they sent me a finished copy, and actually I often keep the finished copy over the proof, but in this case I'm going to be keeping the proof over the finished copy, so I don't need to keep my finished copy. They sent me two, one is going. And then last but not least, we have books I enjoyed but I've decided to unhaul. This is quite rare for me, but I'm trying to get a little bit better at doing that so I can really keep space on my shelves. The first one is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a very good high fantasy book. I'm still torn about whether or not to read book 2. Book 2 is about pirates. I don't really like pirates. The first book has a storyline that began and finished here. It was a very good plot, very well done in terms of world building and layering and storytelling, but the characters didn't quite intrigue me, and I think the characters that will appear in the second book are not actually the characters that I love as much, so I'm not sure whether to give these new characters a chance or whether I should just stop here. Yeah, so I don't have mixed things or feelings on this book because I did enjoy it. The overall, you know, I enjoyed this, full stop. 4 stars. Will I continue the series? Who knows? I do want to keep this book, but I do know that there's like a hardcover special edition, and I tend towards hardcover over paperback. I don't particularly like this cover. It was Unhaul given to me by Hannah. The spine is broken, like I don't need to keep it. So I'm not keeping this particular edition, but watch out on my hauls. It may be making a comeback in the form of a nice new edition for my shelves. And then last but not least, I'm unhauling Release by Patrick Ness. Now, I read this during October and I liked it. There were 2 storylines in this, one of which I didn't understand at all. Speculative, and I didn't quite understand why it was there and what I was supposed to get from it, but I did enjoy the storyline following Adam and his queer journey, and especially, you know, the conflict between queerness and religion that he faces and the oppression he's feeling from his family who don't respect him or, you know, understand him. I really like this. I think the writing is lyrical and lovely. 4 stars. Like, it's a good Patrick Ness book. However, I've read like 5 Patrick Ness books, 6 now, and I like all the others more than this one, which made me think, should I be keeping this on my shelves? And the answer that I've concluded on is no. I should not be keeping it on my shelves. So even though I really like this, I'm just not going to reread it. So I do not need to keep it, and I'm letting it go, which is a very adult decision. I applaud myself. I pat myself on the back for doing that. So yeah, that is my unhaul rapid fire style. Those are all books that are getting off of my shelves now and going to new homes. Please let me know in the comment section down below, what's one book on your shelf that you plan to reread? I'd like to know what you are wanting to reread soon. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!